Assalamu alaikum. Shalom alaikum. Alafia. Black clothes for all black people. My name is Dashawn Farad, family. I'm a journalist. Brothers and sisters, the one thing that I want us to get out of this discussion, this friendly debate, is that we all want the liberation of black people. Is that right? As Dr. John Henry Clark stated, Pan-Africanism will perish. Is that right? So if anything we can get out of this, remember that unity is our number one goal. Oftentimes, those of us that are conscious black people, nationalists, whatever you want to call us, we like having these little petty discrepancies, but that's human. As black people, we have to understand we have one common goal, one aim, one destiny, one God, black power. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring on a warrior attorney, a brother who was an advisor to the Black Power General, who we all love, the Honorable Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad. Ashe? Ashe. You know, he said that he was born to give the white man hell from the cradle to the grave. And this brother here is also in that tradition. I actually helped him write the book. I helped him edit the book on Khalid, which was the first. This book that this brother wrote, the Book of Khalid, was the first book ever, the first biography, autobiography ever on the life of our Black Power General. So family, I'm going to bring on this brother who's a legal advisor. Not only is he the national chairman of the new Black Panther Party for Self-Defense, he is also the executive director and the founder of the Revolutionary Black Lawyers for Justice. And so just as we call brother attorney Ultimatics the attorney of war, this brother is in that tradition of Ultimatics. So please let us welcome with a strong black hand, brother Dr. Attorney Malik Zulu Shabazz. Black power! 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 Assalamu alaikum. Shalom. Hotel. Free the land. And black laws for all black people. Giving honor to God, and in the name of my teacher, Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, I bear witness that regardless of land, label, or language, that there is but one God. In our African culture and our African history, we have always, throughout the span of time, regardless of land, label, or language, we have believed in one God. Some call that God Ra. Some say Amun-Ra. Some say Amun, depending on which dispensation in time. Some say Atum. Others call him in the name of the creator God, Atum. Other parts of Africa, we say Babaluaye. Other parts of Africa, we say Obatula. We hold up one finger in Southern Africa as we are taught, and we say Unkulu. Can you say that? Unkulu. Oshun. Oya. Obatula. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Others say the Most High God. The indigenous sisters and brothers say the Great Spirit. My brothers here and others in the Israelite tradition say Yahweh, Elohim. Others say Yemonja, Nakumpo, Umvelingo. I bear witness, regardless to land, label, or language, that there is but one God. And in the course of this debate, and in the course of these actual facts, proof, truth, and evidence, one of the points that I'm going to prove and to disprove my opponent attack is that I will show and to prove that Africans did not worship many gods, but they worshiped one supreme being, and they manifest and they acknowledge and they praise the manifestation of the different aspects of the one God. They didn't believe in many different gods. They believed in the one God. But those who didn't understand us and those that don't understand us say that. My sisters and brothers, I will prove beyond a reasonable doubt in this debate and in this trial that Africa can be trusted well beyond the Bible, that Africa is the mother of the Bible, and that Black people are the origin of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. All of it comes out of Africa, including the ISUPK. My brothers who are right here in the audience. If they're going to be Israelites, by the end of this lecture, it will be proven beyond a reasonable shadow of a doubt that they are African Hebrew Israelites. And that's the only kind of Israelite to be. Black power? Black power. I will prove beyond a reasonable shadow of a doubt that every prophet that they cite from the Bible, and I have mine from my minister, Minister Khalid Muhammad. That's right. I will prove in the course of this lecture, and prove in the course of this lecture that before Adam, they're going to talk about Adam and Eve. I'm going to prove it's a kindergarten religion. That Adam and Eve, Noah, Shem, Ham, everybody they cite, and they will tell you that we are from Ham. I'm going to tell you before we get going, you are the father and the mother of Ham. You are the father and the mother of Noah. You are the father and the mother of Adam. Before Adam was, you were. Before Noah was, you were. Before Shem was, you were. Before Ham was, you were. You are not to be confined to some 6,000-year-old baby book called Bible. You are the mothers and fathers of civilization. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Before you there were none. After you will be no more. You are from everlasting to everlasting. You're going to learn today. Let's go. Let's give them a round of applause, family, please. Let's give Malik a round of applause, please. That was good. That was good, but it's not enough. It's not enough. I need everybody's attention, please. Okay. So I need everybody's attention, please. All right. So without further ado, I want to bring to the stage my brother. We call him the Thanos of the conscious community because he had destroyed everybody else. Your teacher, Dr. Khalid Muhammad, loved the ISUPK and visited the ISUPK because I was in class when he did. And from that tradition comes this man, Captain Cesario of the ISUPK. Everybody say, come on! All of the guys you mentioned, all of them fought against each other. Remember that. Kulu, whatever that shit is, whatever that is, they all fought against each other. There is no Atum and the Nubian and them getting along. If they did, they would only have one name. You wouldn't need multiple names. You would have the same name. What I want to do is set the stage. This topic is, do we trust Africa or do we trust the Bible? So I want to set the stage. The brother wrote an excellent book about Khalid Muhammad. You got a video ready? Can you play that?
Is it all right? Some of you put this book down. But the Bible is a roadmap to our liberation and salvation.
He said it's a big book. His leader just said what? That the Bible is the roadmap to the Black man's liberation.
It's a roadmap to our liberation and salvation, if properly understood.
And that's why they call it a baby book, because I'm sorry, I need to start. Play that again.
Revelation, the Bible, actually has our history. We're living in the Bible right now, brothers and
He didn't
sisters.
say we living in Nkulu. He didn't say we living in Nkulu, Atum, Egypt, Kemet, none of that. He said from Genesis to Revelation, the Bible is the blueprint. That's his father, spiritually. That's his leader. That's where he comes from. Keep going.
Besides the so-called Jews, I say so-called, not in mockery, but I'm
Can you turn it up a little bit?
So-called Jews because we are the true Jews, the true Hebrews.
You heard what he said? He said, we say the so.
And I'm going to say it's all right to talk about Jesus up there.
He said the so-called Jew. The reason why he said so-called Jew, because you have a race of white people that claim to be us. But his leader said, I say so-called Jews because we are the true Jews. We are the true Hebrew Israelites. He didn't say African Hebrew Israelites. He said we are the true Hebrew Israelites. That's what he said. Keep playing.
Well, what is besides the so-called Jews? I say so-called, not in mockery, Brother Dominic. I'm not playing to any cameras. They are the so-called Jews because we are the true Jews, the true Hebrews, the true and real Israelites.
And I'm going to say it's all right to talk about Jesus up in here with me. But I'm going to say here, when I speak of Jesus, I'm not talking about that portrait of Michelangelo's master.
According to Luke 2, which is bad, you don't want to talk about the white Jesus. Neither do I. But if you want to talk about that black Jesus, Yeshua with black woolly hair, he's referencing the Bible. None of them have ever taught out of the Quran that they're supposed to follow. Or African mumbo jumbo, whatever they're supposed to follow. Keep playing. We got one more. Take next one.
Don't make no mistake here. We believe in God. Or we believe that God is black. We believe that Jesus is black. We believe that Jesus is the black revolutionary Messiah.
He ain't say nobody give it.
Don't make no mistake here.
The system was the black revolutionary. He said Jesus Christ, so Yahweh Shah Mashiach was the black revolutionary. So when you say, should we trust the Bible? Unless he's going to betray his teacher, we can only trust the Bible.
Right. In God. Or we believe that God is black. We believe that Jesus is black. We believe that Jesus is the black revolutionary Messiah, a black man who received this book from the hands of the white man. He did it. He wouldn't allow us to read it for over 300 years. He didn't want us to read this book because he knew that the book condemned him.
You can stop it. So what we're going to see in this debate, I got about 30 seconds left, is when they talk about trust in Africa or trust in the Bible, this is not about showing that this person exists, that this is a baby religion or baby belief. We're in 2022, and it's not about resources. It's about, if you want to say trust Africa, you're not talking about the continent. I ain't mad at the continent. I ain't mad at landmass, but there's the nations in Africa that sold us in slavery. Right. So if I can say the white man is the devil, I can say his cohorts are devils too. Right. I can say the same thing. Like the white man would not have been able to enslave us if we wasn't sold by the Africans.
All right, black power, black power. Okay, let me get back to what I intend to prove here. I intend to prove that we should trust Africa above the line. That we should trust Africa because trusting in Africa is trusting in ourselves, trusting in our traditions, trusting in our morals, our values, our ways, our customs, trusting in our people. All 2 billion of our people, not just one small sect from a small religion. I will prove here today that religion itself, including the Israelite religion as given to us by my brothers here, is divisive. Religion is narrow-minded. Religion causes us to act like the white man. Many of their arguments today from the Bible and from their doctrine, I will show in the course of my argument, are the exact same arguments that the white slave master who came to Africa with the Bible that they held. Many of the arguments that they will profess today are the exact same arguments that white missionaries came to Africa with to subject our people. It's the same doctrine of that my brothers will be preaching today. I will prove today that we must trust Africa because Africa is the mother of all civilization. And when you compare the contributions of Africa, when you compare the contributions of Kemet, when you compare the contributions of Kush and Nubia, and compare them to the biblical and the archaeological contributions of the kingdom of Israel, it ain't no comparison. When you compare all that Africa has given to the world and you compare it to a few stones in the Sinai desert, some broken down rocks and rubble, compared to the awesome greatness of African history. Or I will be true to my teacher. My teacher taught me about baby Bible babblers and kitty Quran quotes. Baby Bible babbling and kitty Quran quotas. But let me go to my first point that I want to register and get credit for, is that religion is divisive. This Hebrew Israelite religion is practiced by my brothers. Now, don't get me wrong, these are my brothers. These are my Black African brothers. The book of Hosea in the 4th and the 6th chapter say, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. And because thou hast rejected the knowledge I'm about to give you, the book say, I, God, have also rejected thee. Jesus, or Yeshua, and we talk about Jesus in here, we're not talking about a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, pale-skinned, buttermilk complexion, white cracker Christ. We're talking about a Black Lord, a Black Savior, and a Black Master. He teaches us in the book, he says, ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. In your own history, it's written on the walls of the hieroglyphics of the Medu Neter, the supreme and sacred writings. Man must know thyself. When you talk about the Bible and you limit yourself to the Bible and you confine yourself to the Bible, you're a small scope, even a pebble of the broad universality and awesomeness of African history. Now let's see how divisive religion is and how it pits one brother against another, and it makes no sense whatsoever. Go to the video.
Do you see him as your brother? As your little brother?
If he was born here?
No, we ain't dealing with this. He already told you where he from. Where you from?
Mali and Ghana.
He from Mali and Ghana. Ghana. Beautiful, smart young brother. Is this your people?
Just that alone, that's crazy. And they all clap for it. Yes. That shows you how dangerous religion is. Religion will make you go against yourself. Religion will make you go against your mama. Religion will make you go against your cousin, your brother, and your grandmama, all because of an interpretation in the book which has been given to us by the white man. Black power? Black power. He should never have told his Black brother who was looking for guidance from his big brother that he wasn't even his brother at all. Score me on that. Score me on that. Now let's get into my presentation because the time is cooking. Put me on the PowerPoint. Put me on my PowerPoint. Pause my time. Pause my time. We gotta have tech pause time at least. Give me tech pause time. I don't need the video no more. Okay, somebody needs to work my camera. I had a Panther brother. Brother, come work my camera. That's all right. Follow me with that camera. Okay, there we is. Let's get into it. Let's get into it. Which one can we trust? Africa or the Bible? Tipping me off on Queen James. I wanted to hold that. But since you done seen it several times, and I know my opponent is going to try to talk about homosexuality, but before he even get to any allegation of alleged homosexuality, we're going to tell Queen James first. First thing we got to understand here before we get started is that What they call Israel is in Africa. What they call Palestine is in Africa. What they call the Sinai up in the corner here, I wish I could hop up on this stage. Work that camera. Well, I ain't got it right now. Plus, I like being up here better, since I occupy the higher moral and historical position. Right here is what they call the Sinai Desert, which also contains Palestine or Israel. My teacher, Khalid Muhammad, taught me that Palestine is in Africa. He taught me that Israel is in Africa, separated by a man-made ditch called the Suez Canal. Only white folks have sought to separate Israel from Africa. Only white folks have sought to separate Palestine from Africa. Palestine is in Africa. Mecca is in Africa. All of these are the Holy Land, and our Holy Land and our Zion is not just one. Come on now. Better keep my computer plugged in and all that. You gotta watch that. Watch my power. Come on, y'all, move out. Somebody's in front of me. Brother, you gotta move out of the way. Let me get out here. I gotta move fast. Palestine is in Africa. Israel is in Africa. Everything you study about in the Bible where you are attacking Africa is in Africa. But I'm facing an anti-African group, an anti-Black group. Let's keep going forward. Let's go next. Well, I got the controls. 76 trillion years. This history here. Now, the baby Bible babblers, the baby Bible babblers will tell you that Adam and Eve was the first man. Adam and Eve is the first man. That's kindergarten religion. 6,000 year history, the Bible tells us, of the history of Adam coming till today. 6,000 years. Well, my sisters, if you had a grand and you put up 6,000 years, that's 6,000 year Bible history. Now I say right here from the Journal on Nature and many other sources, a whole bunch of sources, says the known remains of the human remains of Homo 1, who is the oldest Homo sapien, human like you. The remains of that human have been found to be 230,000 years old. How many years? Say it loud. How many years? I know the Hebrew Israelites have stacked in on me, but I'm going for it, make no difference. How many years? When you compare 6,000 years on a graph to 230,000, you don't even see that. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that the history of the Black nation is 76 trillion years old. When you compare 6,000 years on a scale of 76 trillion, it don't even register on the graph. When the oldest human remains are found in 3.5 million years old. 3.5 million years old man has been on the planet, yet we have been taught by theologians and baby Bible babblers that we are 6,000 years old. Okay, so that's the first thing that's false, is that the Bible gives us the history of our people when our history predates the Bible. We are now 6,000-year-old people. The white man is 6,000 years old. Our history is 230,000 years old. For the Homo sapien, 3.5 million years old for human remains. Black power? Genesis. Oh, I know something about I'm going into the Bible today. But I'm not going to go by the Bible. I'm not going by the Bible. My teacher did not tell me to go by the Bible. He didn't say go by the Bible. He said go in the Bible. Then you will know what's happening. Genesis in the first chapter talks about Adam and Eve and Cain. Adam, Eve, and Cain, and Abel. Well, it was supposed to be on the earth, Adam and Eve, and then they had Cain and Abel. Cain killed Abel, so it's supposed to be Adam, Eve, and Cain. Is that right? According to the Bible. But Genesis in the 4th chapter says, once Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and dwelt in the land of Nod, Cain left the presence of the Lord, settled in the land of Nod, and then Cain, it goes on to say, Cain then went on and took a wife in the land of Nod. So if it was Adam and Eve and Cain took a wife, where did this wife come from? Professor J.A. Rogers teaches us about the pre-Adamites. And our scholars and our scientists point out that man existed long and long before the biblical history that's given us in the Bible. This is a baby history. This is a child's history when it comes to the infinite history of the original black man and black woman. This is the Holy Land. This is our Zion. Not just one patch of desert in the sand called the Sinai Desert. Our Holy Land is in upper Egypt or upper Kemet, which is to the south, lower Kemet, which is to the north, also Cush, which is to the south of upper Egypt. This is the areas that we will be focused on today. Oh, I do? What red button? I can't be wasting time. Let me go right now. All right, so we must trust Africa because we must trust the supreme sources of knowledge, not secondary sources or baby sources. They're going to tell you about Adam and Eve. Adam is religion, but they don't want to tell you and maybe not know about them, my brothers, so they need to know about Atum. Because long before they were Pastor Pigfoot, with the pork chop, Pastor Pigfoot, or Pastor Hogmaw with the chitlin juice running down his jaw, tells us about, and they, unfortunately, they teach, as black as they are, I don't even know if they say they're black, but they teach similar teaching to Pastor Pork Chop teaching. They teach a similar teaching the way Pastor Pigfoot teaches, not the way my teacher taught me. Atom was before Adam. Atom was long before Atom. Atom is the creator God, or the manifestation that of the creator in the personification of the Kemetic God Atum. And you also have the word atom, the atom of life, Atum. Later on comes a baby called Adam. The 10 Commandments. They will come and tell you today that the 10 Commandments come directly from God, come directly from Yahweh. I'm sure they come from a spiritual source. Okay, a spiritual source, but which spiritual source? The 42 laws and principles of Maya are the basis of the 10 Commandments. Long before you had the 10 Commandments, Dr. Yusuf Ben Yakin, Henry Clark, Dr. Tony Browder, and many of Egyptologists of all races bear witness that the 10 Commandments come from the 42 divine laws and principles of Ma'at. Don't tell me about the 10 Commandments unless you can tell me about my teacher taught us about Ma'at, truth, justice, harmony, righteousness, order, and reciprocity. It's represented in the form of a woman. In the form of a woman. And you'll see that once the Bible takes over, all women are suppressed and the duality is crushed in Kemet. Okay, so the 10 Commandments come from Africa. So you must say that we got to trust Africa because Africa gave you the 10 Commandments. This Exodus, they talk about we were slaves in Egypt. And these brothers will tell you that Egypt is bad. Kemet is bad. The Pharaoh is a slave master. The Africans enslaved other Africans. The African Egyptians enslaved African Jews. And they will tell you that Africa is bad. And they're teaching an anti-African teaching. And an anti-African teaching is no good for our people. There is no evidence. This is from Haaretz magazine. This is Haaretz. This is the leading Zionist newspaper in Israel where white folks have a vested interest in proving that they belong there. And even the so-called Jew admits that it never happened. He said the reality is here that there is no evidence. Make this light work for me. The reality, please. The reality is that there is no evidence whatsoever that the Jews were ever enslaved in Egypt. Yes, there's the story contained within the Bible itself, but there is not a remotely historically admissible source. I'm talking about real proof, real archaeological evidence, state records, and primary sources of these. Nothing exists. What exists? What exists? It goes on here, it says it's hard to believe that 600,000 families, which would mean about 2 million people, crossed the entire Sinai without leaving one shred of pottery with the Hebrew writing on it. Goes on to say that this whole Exodus story, this whole Passover that they're going to teach you about, there's no proof that it ever happened at all. There's no proof that any of them. There's no proof that there were any slaves in Egypt for over 400 years. There's no proof that Genesis 15 and the 13 was fulfilled then. That was only symbolic. There's not, of all supposed to be 2 billion people. 1/4 of the Kemetic or Egyptian population leaving Kemet. And it ain't one poem, one piece of pottery, one artifact to show that it's true. Because it's not true. They were never slaves in Egypt. Ramesses was never drowned in the Red Sea. And the Passover story is not true. Well, and what's another proof of it's not true? Sorry to bust you up. That's prophecy. It's symbolism. You and I are the only people that have ever been in a land that is not our own for 400 years. You and I are the fulfillment of Genesis 15th chapter and the 13th verse. It didn't happen then. It's only symbolic of what's happening now. 75% of what you read in the Old Testament pertaining to the Hebrew or the Israelite is prophetic. Only 25% actually happened, and the slavery wasn't part of the 25%. African pharaohs are not bad. Kemet is not bad. Anybody on the streets of America teaching that Africa is bad, Egypt is bad, that Kemet is bad, I say that they are against the unity of all African people, and if nobody will put a stop to it, God damn it, I'll put a stop to it today. Black power, tired of the falsehood. Africa is the origin of civilization. Africa and Kemet and Egypt are the origin of civilization, which you must trust, because if you compare Africa to the contributions of the Israelites, it ain't no comparison. You're talking about the greatest civilization ever known to man by Africans. Some of the 8 wonders of the world still standing against a few piles of rubble. A few piles of rubble. It ain't no comparison. How can you trust the contributions of the kingdom of Israel over Africa? Let's go into it. Imhotep. I'm Imhotep. Master architect. Master pyramid builder. Master of medicine. He's a black man from Africa like you. there a Hebrew in the scripture that can compare to Imhotep? Is there a metaphysician that has made world history from the Israelites or Israelite Imhotep? Yes or no? No. Akhenaten, one of the founders of monotheism, although we practiced it all along from the beginning. The Sphinx, Abu el-Haww by the Arabs, one of the greatest sculptures or piece of architecture ever in human history, still standing today. The pyramids, the 8 wonders of the world, still standing today. Still 8 one, the only one of the 8 wonders of the world still standing today. Africa, the same, and you will come on the streets, and my brothers who I love, how can they teach against this? How can they go on the streets and tell young brother that this is bad, and this is evil, and this is the benchmark for all civilization and the basis for Black confidence? That's just going to a few accomplishments. I got to run. Africans. I say mummification, the preservation of life for the dead. Africans originated mathematics. In history books, Greeks take the credit for inventing mathematics, but it's the Kemetix or the Egyptians that invented mathematics. Is it anywhere in the Bible or anywhere in their history where anybody in the Bible invented mathematics? Anywhere where an Israelite or a Hebrew invented mathematics? Talk to me. No, sir. I know you out here, you didn't believe what you believe in. I'm gonna bust it up. There's nothing in the history of any of these Bible characters, even if they did exist, that compared to the contribution of the original Black man and woman. You must trust the original source, not some secondary source. Where is the proof of Moses? Where is the proof of Abraham? Where is the proof of these prophets? Where are their writings? Where are their writings? The Old Testament, when we talk about the hieroglyphics, the sacred writings of the Nebuchadnezzar, they were written down contemporaneously or at the same time. In the practice of law, when we talk about the weight of evidence, contemporary or contemporaneous sources supersede anything that was written down much later. The hieroglyphics of the Nebuchadnezzar were written down contemporaneously. You can see it stands to this very day. The Old Testament, when they write the history, it wasn't even written down till 563 BC. Kemet was founded in 3000 BC in the Upper Kemet from Menes or King Narmer from Ethiopia, and our history has been written down from the beginning because we invented writing. They just wrote this down 3,500 years later, trying to tell you what happened 2,000 years before, and you wonder why it can't be trusted. Black power? Let me get out of this. Medicine. Black man is the father of medicine. Show me one in the Bible that's the father of medicine. Lord, pyramids. Lord, libraries. Kemet, Egypt, Africa. The father of all libraries. Name a Bible or one from the kingdom of Israel that created a library. Government. Africans and Kemetics, government. Want me to prove it, I'll come back to you. We invented government. We invented the calendar and the clock. We invented cosmetics. But not just Egypt. This ain't just about Egypt or Kemet. Your history dates back even further south into Kush. I got you. Kush. 5 minutes on your Kush, a great empire. Africa. Something in Israel that compares to it. Kushite Empire, right below Kemet. It's all, we're not just talking about Kemet. We're talking about Kush. Can you say it? Kush. Yeah, you've been taught to say Israel, but you can't even speak your own African language. Wake them up. Wake them up. Look at the beautiful jet black, blue black, purple black woman from Kush. Black power. Look at that. Look at that. Let me move. Now let's look at Israel's accomplishments. Let's look at what Israel has brought to the world. Israel, hold on, Lord. I got gotta go back to this, quick, fast. Pause for time, man. Technical difficulty. Give me a break, man. Shit, give me a break. Pause for time. Hold on, give me back, man. Sorry. Well, it's a lot. This took me a long time. I'm trying to squeeze it in. What's up? All right, now watch my power. Don't let my power go out. Okay. Here we go. Now you've seen all of the accomplishments. You've seen some. You ain't seen nowhere near the accomplishments of Israel. Pardon me, of Kemet. You haven't seen near about the accomplishments of Kemet. What did Israel? Y'all work with me. Pause my time for a minute, man. Just because of technical difficulties. Give me a minute. Just preserve me 3 minutes, please. I'm begging. Right here. Thank you. Shoot. You slow down for me. You've seen the accomplishments of the original man. Your foremothers and forefathers and your foremothers and forefathers. Now let's look at the accomplishments of the kingdom of Israel as we can look at them in history. The pyramids are still standing. Even though Napoleon blew the nose off the still standing. Well, what has Israel given us? This is the most impressive things they have. A pile of damn rocks. That's it. And you telling me trust that over this? A pile of rocks. These are the top archaeological sites in Israel. They don't even know what it means because it all fell down because it's not all the way from the original man. This is the most impressive art thing they have. Is the Masada, and this was built in 70 BC. It's the only thing that's standing. I don't even know what it is. But I tell you this, it don't compare to Africa. It don't compare to Egypt. How are we going to trust that? It don't compare. Let's go back to the beginning. I know I'm racking up points. Because if you trust anything other than this, you out of your black mind. We're coming back to the beginning now. Now my opponent, his only attack is going to be able to try to interject some allegations of homosexuality. His only, but I will tell you this, and I'll get back to it. Oh, shoot. Yeah, I said it. I said that the Hebrew Israelite and their teaching of the Bible is just the same and it's similar to the white man's teaching of the Bible. A Bible-only doctrine, a white missionary telling you that black people are pagans, that black people religion should be rejected, same as a white man. They want to talk up, they're going to bring up some allegations of homosexuality, which I will rebut. Well, let's talk about the book that they're going to swear by, King James. Now, they say the white man is the devil, but this is one white man they won't attack. But Queen James was a sissy. Queen James was a faggot. Michael Young in his book, King James and the History of Homosexuality, and in the other book, David Bergwijn, King James, Homoerotic Desires. This is the King James of 1611, not no other King James. This the Bible translator is gay. Let's see how they get around that. It says here, James's favorites had a negative impact within the royal family and in the nation of Islam. Contemporaries raised the specter of sodomitical court and effeminized nation. Queen Anne encouraged a marital split and molded her oldest son to be more manly than his father. Repercussions continued after James' death. This goes on. I got my time is running. I can come back to the details of it. James was a homosexual. James is a sissy. That's a good point to end. Black power. Black power. Black power. Black power. All right. Malik came with that energy. So now next up we have Captain Tazariak coming back up. He has 30 minutes. 30 minutes to give his rebuttal and his information. Hopefully everybody's paying attention. If I'm not mistaken, Simon, at the end of this debate, there's going to be a chance for the audience to ask questions. So make sure you guys are paying attention to what's coming out. And at the end, you're going to be able to ask questions, right, Simon, in the last round? You're going to be able to ask questions? Yes. All right, so make sure you guys are paying attention. And when you come up, just ask your question, and that's it. We don't need a sermon. We don't need a soliloquy. Ask your question of either guy, and that's it. You ready, Cap? Video with that little African boy, he said, we were insane. Play it, please. He did play that video with that little African boy, which was insane. And I always tell you outside, Netta does excellent editing work. Right. Now I'm going to show you the difference between a free man and a slave. I wouldn't feed him because his ancestors enslaved us. Right. Yeah, I'm talking about. That's why I ain't feeding him because he got brown skin. There's another video we got inside. Netta asked me if I would feed a little white boy. I said, no, he liked that one. Oh. Summertime, stop. Summertime. Anyway, I wouldn't feed that little white boy, nobody cared. Because y'all suffer from colorism. I don't suffer from colorism. I suffer from wanting vengeance against my enemies. Right. So now, let's see if the smart one, now you put the boy up. Let's see if the boy is just as smart as me. Play it.
And I was persecuting your people. I didn't care about your side.
I don't know that. If you tell my people that you're me, I just look at the hating people you. I don't know that. If you tell my people that you're me, I just look at the hating people you.
Same interview. In that same interview, that little African boy, because he's a free man, said, I'm not going to lie. If you were terrorizing my people when I got older, I would hate you and your people. That's why we hate Africans. That's right. That's right. Let's find out if you can trust Africa. This way, next slide. Let's see if you can trust Africa. So now, first here we have African countries involved in the slave trade. Now, what's interesting about do we trust Africa? It's like 40 to 50 countries. So when you say go into Africa, where exactly are you going to go that they're going to accept you? So now this is just 11 of the countries that were involved. We got Ashanti, Ghana. Y'all love that Ghana. They go to Ghana like it's something. So now these are 11 nations. So are we going to go to any of these nations and trust that they won't enslave us again when slavery in Africa is taking place today? Today in 2022, they are still enslaving each other because they are not united, they are divided. Next slide. How many languages? In Israel, we only have one language, Hebrew. When he mentioned them gods, he did like 10 different gods, 10 different languages. In reality, there's over 2,000 native languages that you would have to pick and learn. That further divides us. We are divided enough. If you ask somebody who they are, they're going to say, I'm Christian, Methodist, Muslim, whatever it is that they are. We have to have one belief. That's our unity. Our unity is not in division. We can't be 10 different things and think we're going to come together, because if you have one culture and you add another culture, they're going to conflict with each other. Keep going. African religions. It says African religious belief and practices of the peoples of Africa. It should be noted that any attempt to generalize the nature of African religions risks wrongly implying that there's homogeneity among all African cultures, because they don't get along like he's trying to tell you. The way the Dogon worship is not the way the Ashanti worship. It's not the way the Nigerian worship. It's not the way the Zimbabwean. They do not mix and match at all. Give me the next slide. This is African religions just in West Africa. So you got the Bawe, Akan, Domi, Eric, Edo, Hasua. It took me a long time to even try to remember how to say this. Dogon, Voodoo, Yoruba. Which one of them y'all gonna pick? It would be the same problem in America where y'all pick whatever religion makes you feel good. Give me the next one. That's just in West Africa. In South Africa, you got the Bantu, you got the San religion, traditional, indigenous. Remember, this is supposed to be, do we trust Africa? What part of Africa are you going to trust? Right. Play the next one.
Listen, now, it said, do we trust Africa or the Bible? In my research, I stopped at 900. There's over 900 gods and goddesses. We only have one God, Deuteronomy 6:4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. We don't deal with multiple gods. Linguistics estimate that nearly 2,100 native languages are spoken. In our language, we only speak one. So if I said Deuteronomy 6:4 in Hebrew, I'd say Shema Yasha'Allah Yahweh Allah Ayanawa Yahweh Akkad. One language. Over 3,000 different ethnic groups. So who are you? That's the biggest problem that plagues Black people in America. Who are you? There's over 3,000 different ethnic groups. You don't even know who you are. Give me the next slide, God. Oh, now, he brought up this homosexuality with King James. We'll cut that in the rebuttal round. He also, remember, Khaled said to believe in the Bible, and he thought he believed in the Bible. The Bible does not say that Adam and Eve was the first man and first woman. Don't teach that. The Bible also don't say it's 6,000 years. That's the white man doing that. That's not us doing that. And to show you the proof that the Bible trumps, if you give a date, if it's BC or AD, that's because of Christ. They had to change it to common era and before era. Before that, it was before Christ and after death. So even your timeline is based on a man that you say don't exist. Oh, he can't say don't exist because he believed it. So now, this is a New York Times article. We're going to find out if we can trust Africa or not. Malcolm X, when he got kicked out of the Nation of Islam, which he's a Muslim, they're not united at all. All they do is hate each other in Islam. Hate each other so much that the man that killed Malcolm was allowed to go to the North Muslim Mosque and live his life out. And they knew he killed Malcolm. Workwood Booker in North Mayor, and they knew he killed him. There is no brotherhood in Islam. So now, the New York Times article, it says, Malcolm X seeks to go to Africa to talk to the Negro leaders, to the African leaders, to get assistance. Next slide. Let's read. It says in Washington, D.C., Washington, Malcolm went to Cairo and told his friends because he saw, y'all familiar with the apartheid in South Africa, right? There's a major global issue. And so because of that global issue, he said, if these people are fighting for South Africa and apartheid, for sure they're going to fight for us Black people in America and our oppression, right? Because they love us. So now, as he go there, it says, the passages of Malcolm memorandum indicated that he encountered resistance. So when he go talk to 31 African leaders, the resistance he got was this. Some African leaders at this conference, he said in his memorandum, have implied that they have enough problems here on the mother continent without adding the Afro-American problem. That's what Africa told them. And I'm supposed to trust Africa? Give me the next slide. Now, when Malcolm hear that, this is what Malcolm said. Malcolm said, with all due respect to you esteemed positions, I must remind all of you that a good shepherd, now you quote the Bible, he said we can't trust. The good shepherd will leave 99 sheep at home and go to the aid of one who is lost and fallen. Now he's pleading with them to save them. And they did nothing for Malcolm. Nothing at all. And all Malcolm did, just like Khalid, just like this brother doing, is praise and glorify Africa. That's your Wakanda. Wakanda is Africa. It's a pipe dream. That's all it is. It says, the American government is either unable or unwilling to protect the lives of 22 million. So why won't y'all protect us? Because they sold us. Give me the next slide. I'll get worse. Give me the next slide, Doc. Why did Ethiopia's prime minister blame African Americans for victimization? Ethiopians like the nastiest Africans out there. When I say nasty, because of their treatment of us, they think they're better than other Africans, so for sure they think they're better than you. So now this is 2020. Abiy Ahmed, the prime minister of Ethiopia, who came to power primarily as the result of the Oromo protests, and I'm going to show you how they take advantage of your pain. He said, in the protest, he talked about cultural attitudes behind different communities. Relative success twice the last 2 years by comparing the development of the so-called Jews and the underdevelopment of African Americans. And this was his argument. Remember, we're supposed to trust Africa. It says, Abai argued that the so-called Jews have become prosperous and powerful Americans by forgetting their past oppression. Is that true? Do the so-called Jewish man forget about the Holocaust? Hell no. They lock up 98-year-old Germans to this day because the Holocaust means something to them. If you say something on TV about them, they lock you up. And the song all about the Benjamins, Jadakiss couldn't even say stack chips like Hebrews without it getting edited out. They edited it out because you can't say nothing about them. But he says we have to be like them. Then it says, while blacks have caused their own suffering and underdeveloped by focusing on past victimization. Now you look at the history of black people in America, he tried to get along with them with marches, not Martin Luther King had a 9-mile march. Why would he say something like that if he's supposed to trust Africa? This is the prime minister that got into office. Keep that word, Oromo youth protest, keep that in mind. Give me the next slide, Kyle. It says 78, this is his quote, and he won a Nobel Peace Prize, by the way. 78 years ago in the United States, 2 groups of people were discriminated against. The Jews, so-called Jew, and the blacks. The so-called Jew people used to be tortured in prison, denied jobs, the black face the same fate. You know, the Germans killed the Jews, and many of those survived, fled to America. Israel didn't exist. The so-called Jew made a decision as a people. They said we were tortured, oppressed, discriminated against. If we merely continue to talk about the past, we won't go far enough. We have to have a winning vision. He's glorifying the so-called white man. So we're already in a state where the so-called white man is glorified and we're on the bottom. You want to go to a continent that is now glorifying the white man and putting you on the bottom. You can't trust Africa at all. On the other hand, the blacks continue to sing and complain about being oppressed and tortured. So we can't talk about our pain. They killed George Floyd. Watch, keep George Floyd in your head. They killed George Floyd, so they're right. We can't complain about that. We got to get over that. That's what he just said. We continue to sing and complain about being oppressed and tortured, saying the white did this and white did this, discriminate did that. To this day, blacks have not gotten anywhere. When the white man actually left us alone, we had the best part of our life. During segregation, when we was united, that's why you have HBCUs. You know why they're historical? Because once the white man bombed Black Wall Street, you don't have no more. Where's our stores at? The vendors back here? This is how we have to start. And make sure y'all patronize every last vendor, because why do we have to do like this? Because our businesses are gone. Give me the next slide, Kyle. Now, this is what I mean about trusting Africa, and we're the Wakanda is our pipe dream. Now, at the same time that this prime minister in 2020 says that about Black people and how we don't get over pain, in 1935, it says Harlem's forgotten fight to save Africa's last uncolonized nation. So just like Malcolm loved Africa, Harlem loved Africa. And in 1935, it says Harlem, New York, the summer of 1935, years before the United States or even allied Europe had entered World War II, large crowds of African Americans are gathering around a desk, volunteering to take on a fascist Italian dictator who's soon to become Hitler's fiercest collaborator. So as poor as people, wait, let me read that part. Black Americans have enough battles of their own. This is in the article. Have enough battles of their own to fight every day on American soil in the midst of the Great Depression and enduring Jim Crow. So at the same time in the Depression, we suffering Jim Crow. But the news has just come from Africa. We want to galvanize to go and fight for Africa. So how come we can love Africa, but Africa don't love us back? That's why you don't trust them. If you was in a relationship with a man or a woman and you give and they're not doing that, you're going to stop trusting him. You're going to stop trusting her. Next slide. All right, that's your will. Almost all volunteers were blocked from leaving the U.S. government, so the U.S. would not let them fight for the Ethiopians. It said threatened imprisonment, but they was willing to get locked up just to fight for the Ethiopians. Has any African country been willing to get locked up to save us since we've been in America? In about 500 years. Maybe I can tell me if they have or haven't. I haven't heard of it, right? Give me the next slide. Now look at this picture. You see, this is where the Harlem people was volunteering for the Ethiopians to register for them. So the same prime minister that said, oh, we talk about our pain, this is them actually going to volunteer. Now look at this picture over here. It says, Ethiopia is George Floyd. So at the same time, the prime minister is saying we can't talk about what the white man is doing to us. He uses what the white man is doing for his campaign to get in office. This is just like the white man. When he say we act like the white man, Africans act like the white man. When they see you, they do not see you as their people. They see you as something else. They don't associate, they don't affiliate. I'll show you more. Give me the next slide, Pat. When it comes to our pain, they only see their own. On July 22nd, a section of Ethiopians held a demonstration in Addis Ababa condemning whatever that Tigray People's Liberation Front, and calling on international community to understand the context of continued military operations. Tigray has experienced a conflicting pitting against the national forces since November 2020. The slogan, Ethiopia is George Floyd. So your prime minister won't let you talk about your pain, but they will use your pain to liberate themselves. And I'm supposed to trust that? That's what this debate is not about. Every part of that stuff we brought up, which will be tomorrow. But it's about, do we trust it? Even the stuff that he said doesn't match in the Bible, none of it at all. Give me the next slide, kind of stuff. Give me liberty, give me Liberia, or give me death. Appreciate it. Yeah, move faster than I thought. Might get a good up in there, might get a good up. He just got about 40 minutes to speak. He talking about 2 minutes. He hurt. He hurt. He hurt. Give him a quiet platform. Fuck this nigga up. Do something for him. He's talking during my time. Why you talking? Hold my time. Give me 10 more seconds. Don't do that. Give me Liberia or give me death. They said we should go back to Africa. Has that ever been done? Have we ever went back to Africa? Let's read and find out. Let's read. On the 12th of April, 1980, a band of 17 men stormed Liberia's presidential palace. Despite being only low-ranking soldiers in the army, they decided to take matters into their own hand. Now, these are Africans going against what you're going to find out are black people that went to Africa. I told you I was going to tell you, boy, up. So now, finding the president sleeping in his bed, they killed him on the spot. After this bloody deed, the insurgents rounded up almost all the members of the cabinet, which were black people, black Americans. I'm saying black Americans on purpose. The leader of the coup was Samuel Doe, an indigenous master sergeant of the Liberian army, proclaiming himself general. He quickly implemented his own version of swift justice. Next slide. The group had ruled Liberia. Now let's talk about the black people that went to Africa, because we're supposed to go back to Africa, right? They're gonna get along and love each other, yada, yada, yada. So this group had ruled Liberia since its founding in 1847. Descendants of former slaves and free African Americans who made their way back from the U.S. to the mother African continent. They had kept a tight rein on power in the country. Back in America, they were citizens of a second category. They differed from the native Africans they found themselves among, though, in language, culture, and education. I'm sorry, let me slide back. President William Tolbert, the man executed by the conspirators when they entered the exit. That's just, you can go to the next slide. I'm sorry. No, it's okay. Yeah, you go to the next slide. Thank you. Says all power in the country was concentrated in the hands of Americo-Liberians. That's what they call the black people that came to Liberia. Why wouldn't they just be called Africans? Why they have to be called America? Wouldn't that divide us? If you have some people called Africans and the other people called African Americans, don't that keep us divided? If we're the same, just call them all Africans. They're making a distinction because they're different. It says they were making up more than a small percentage of the total population of the country. They ruled over the rest of the group through the true Whig party. They controlled the government, economy, and state. Societal inequality is the system generated among majority population. Meaning, when they came over there, because about 12,000, that's like 12 high schools. So that should be enough. It's like 12 high schools. So they should have been coming there, it wouldn't have been no problem. But it gave resentment. This boiled over into enormous anger culminating in Samuel Doe's coup of 1980. The Native African soldiers put the top governing officials on a show trial and condemned them all to death and publicly executed all of them. In the grisly scene, these former rulers were executed. All the men who met their end were of African American descent, meaning they did not kill their own people, they killed black people. Next slide. Yeah. Y'all want me to go to the bottom, sir? Everybody want me to go to Africa, man. Hell no. While the African Americans that immigrated to Liberia were often of the same skin as the other natives, and culture, they could not be more different. The former slaves, they viewed themselves as pioneers conquering new land, bringing civilization to the natives, because we're different, we're not the same. Much of Liberian history was marked by the conflict between the settlers and the natives. The African tribes resented the encroachment of these newcomers of their land. They often attacked the settlers, which would encourage attacks. Another issue at the play was slavery. Here's also another important part. Another issue at play was slavery. The tribes of the Windward Coast profited from the slave trade. So even though they came to Africa, the place that they went to was still selling slaves to America. That was still their business. Still their business. And it says, acting as middlemen in the business. This, of course, was another reason for conflict, constant conflicts with the African-American settlers who, as former slaves or their descendants, wanted to eradicate it. So we've had the go back to Africa experiment. It was a failure. Straight failure. They failed Malcolm, they failed the Ethiopians, they failed the black people in Harlem, they failed these brothers. They failed them all. Got the next slide? America among 15 arrested during Black Lives Matter protests in Uganda. Now, again, they used George Floyd, but in Uganda, they arrested Black women for peacefully protesting the death of George Floyd. And here's what the lady said. So now I'll read some of it. Several Americans among those arrested during the anti-protest in Uganda's capital. The protesters were rallying against racism and brutality in the wake of the death of George Floyd. U.S. citizen Kelsey Nielsen, 30, who lives in Kampala, told ABC News she was among 5 Americans who were arrested for Tuesday's demonstration. This is her quote. This just highlights how much more offensive globally it is to stand up for Black lives and Black liberation than it is to hold perpetrators of anti-Black violence accountable. But she's in a quote-unquote Black continent. Why would protest the death of George Floyd when they just used it to talk about the Ethiopians and say they were George Floyd? Because they will take advantage of you just like who? The so-called white man. Psalms the 83rd chapter say they are confederate against us. That's the white man, the Arabs, the Chinese, Japanese, and look, they're all in your neighborhood. And you know why they're able to get in your neighborhood? Because you are divided. You have to find a belief system, like his leader said. Genesis to Revelation is the roadmap to our salvation. His leader said that. His leader did not mention none of them gods that he talked about. None of them at all. Next slide. Slavery, let's talk about slavery. Slavery was prevalent in many Western, don't want this? Can we do a Kuna now? What about some of that? Oh, give me to a Kuna, all the way to a Kuna, please. Oh, right, ooh, right here, perfect. It says, Haiti is one of us, is just not African enough. The African Union denies Haiti membership. I don't know nobody that try to be more African than the Haitians, maybe the West Indians. Right, Garfield? I try to be African, right? So now, the Haiti, it says, barely weeks after many cheered Haiti's scheduled acceptance as a member of the African Union, they were denied entry into the African Union. And Haiti, so that's the part that brought me out the most. Haiti is poor as hell. So that African Union, if they loved Black people, would have not only brought them in the Union, but they would try to liberate them because that would inspire them. Can you imagine you trying to join this continent? You join the continent, that might uplift you out of your poverty state. But they said it wasn't African enough. But the Brazilians was African enough, though. They did join up with the Brazilian because the Brazilian has resources. They have money. They have influence. So it makes it greater. Now, if you talk about trusting the Bible, go to the next slide. I'll show you how we trust the Bible. So now, for us, we trust that Bible wholeheartedly. So when the Haitians was jammed up from us, let's play what we did. I'm saying we, so it's like school of universal practical knowledge under the power of that Bible. Play it.
What's on the slide class?
Can you bring it back? Can you bring it back? Let me show you something. This is the power of that Bible. This is the power of that book. And if all of us did what this is going to play, we wouldn't need Africa, Arabs, whites, Chinese. We wouldn't need nobody, just us. Play it. Sorry.
Most of us slept last night. A group of Americans were giving out food, water, and clothes to Haitian migrants on the
Now, y'all may not be familiar with this story, But there was Haitians trapped in Acuna, Mexico under a goddamn bridge. Nobody fed them. Nobody did nothing for them. When the Arabs was going through their turmoil, they brought them to America, put them in Airbnbs. When the Haitians went through, they put them under a tunnel, under a bridge. Nobody fed, nobody cared, nobody did nothing for them except us.
Around midnight to see
Y'all like to talk about how we dress, but in y'all regular clothes, y'all do nothing for black people. In your regular clothes, in your Jordans, your Nikes, your Timbs, and that garment right there, look at y'all just how looking glorious. Y'all should come. Look at them looking glorious. And they went into Acuna, Mexico, and to show you, so y'all might think Acuna, Mexico like going to Cancun. Hell no. Because they get into Acuna, and the brother right block, I said that block. This is one of the brothers that went to Mexico. Only that, I forgot, where y'all were at? Stand up, y'all. These are brothers that went to Mexico and love me enough to come see me destroy this Negro. See me destroy him. Now, as they going into Acuna, Mexico, they had to take the drug cartel route. And maybe y'all don't know, you died on the drug cartel route. Say it again, Mama. I'm Father Water. You died going on that drug cartel route. These brothers didn't die on the drug, but they did risk dying for their brother. That's right. That's what they did risk under that Bible. Play the rest of it. Keep playing.
Men in a caravan of 12 cars and a rental truck stopped on the other side of the border. Where you from, buddy? Where you from?
He gonna tell you, this brother that's about to speak, he gonna tell you what made him do what he did. Where you play it?
Where you come from?
Austin, Texas.
You're from Austin, originally from Austin.
Austin, Texas.
So where you live?
In Austin, Texas.
In Austin, so you came all the way from Austin to what? For what?
I came out to assist in the help of Haitians because according to the Bible, the Haitians are the Levites in the Bible. The same way the Mexicans are the Issacharites in the Bible. We are the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. We are really God's chosen people who Christ died for. We are one family.
Together in San Antonio. Now, I'm sorry, I'm gonna let him play. How much more time is it? Is it a lot left? Got the yeah, play it.
Materials for the water, the food that we gave out, the peppers.
Now that's all what we did of our own. Hold there for a second. These brothers gathered this money on their own. About what, $10,000? $10,000 to bring water, food, diapers, clothing to people that nobody else cared about. For sure, the Africans didn't care about. They said they were African about. We did though. Under that Bible. So when you talk about do we trust Africa or trust the Bible, I just gave you 3 examples of them betraying us, let alone the history of them enslaving us. If you don't forgive the white man for what he did, how could you forgive Africa for what they did? Because Africa to you is Jada Pinkett, and you niggas is Will Smith. It don't matter what Jada do. You gonna forgive and defend that nigga all day. You gonna defend Jada Pinkett, so what? Don't say nothing, don't do nothing, don't talk about Africa, don't do this. What the hell with Africa? I'm being disciplined, General. I'm being disciplined, Slocky. Is there any more of this video? Play it, please. Because there's one more thing I want to say. In this video, y'all know the Haitians speak Creole, right? Creole. Pause. Haitians speak Creole. If I could just point out one more brother, where y'all are? Where y'all are? This brother right here is in New York City. When these brothers go into Mexico, you know the one thing they can't do when they get to that land? They can't speak Creole at all. And you know what them brothers did? Hooked up a speaker like this, called this brother on the phone, and he spoke to them in Creole. He got them in line. He got them in order. That's what a body does. That's my time? Y'all see him? I got 2 minutes, right? Y'all see him? He's nervous. He's nervous. Listen, get this boy a diaper, some milk, give him something, and he's still talking. He's still talking. Look at him. He hurt. His brother hurt. Look at him. Now, I need Mike. He need to talk. I'll let him talk. I'm gonna let you get 1 more minute. I'm gonna say nothing. You know we won already. Right. We call that a 30 in battle rap. We call that a 30. That's a 30. It's a 30. It's a 30 in black and white. Now, I'm gonna yield my time. Wow.
The mic is over there, the mic over there.
Woo! Let me get the soda mic. Let me get the mic on the sleeve, my God.
You also have a mic over there too.
He's trying hard. My
Yeah, I know, you know what I know? You got a mic right there, you want the power. You want the power. You want the power. My mic, man.
It's on my chest, right?
And if you be there, you would never see the learn how to.
All right, now, first of all, I gotta let the audience know and everybody know that I'm inside an ISUPK temple, okay? I'm in another city and they have dominated the numbers here. And I'm like no comparison, but it's similar to Jesus going in the temple amongst the so-called Jews. This is the reigning religious order here. And I'm coming here to challenge them and overturn this false teaching. This teaching, Lord, let me say this before I get going. Start my time. Wait, am I start my time?
No. This round is 15, right?
No, this is 30.
Both change 30 minutes? Yeah,
Yeah, they said I could take whatever, but.
I thought it was 15. Nobody told me 30.
How many minutes is round?
No, it's supposed to be 15.
All right, we'll take it 15. We'll say by the rule.
Originally 20 and 20.
I want 15, so we can go back and forth.
Yeah.
Okay, so you must know, those in the radio listening audience, that the Israelites have stacked up in here, and it don't make no difference to me. I'm like Colin Muhammad. Okay, so let me just wipe out a few lies from the beginning. Everybody knows here that Khalid Abdul, that was a misconstruction of the evidence by my opponents, because Khalid Abdul Muhammad at no time said that the only solution of our people was in the Bible from Genesis to Revelations. He never said that. He said that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave us the proper interpretation of the Bible, and from that interpretation would be a roadmap to our liberation. Some of these teachings you have taken from Elijah yourself, such as the white man is the devil. You get that from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Okay, now, Black Power, you ain't get this teaching from yourself, this Black Hebrew Israelite, white man is the devil teaching. You got it from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Black Power, we want to be everything but ourselves. African people want to be, and Black people want to be everything but ourselves, because we have been taught to hate ourselves, and the one that we taught to hate, the one who taught us, shh, y'all got to be still. Get still. We're running around up in here. This is a battle. The battle, the Bible says, is for the minds and hearts of our people. Elijah Muhammad said the Bible is a poison book. It's a poison book, and only if you are divinely inspired with the right interpretation can it be trusted. Other than that, it's like dynamite. It's like high explosives in the hands of children. Okay? So, it is the white man, the Bible-toting white man, that arguments are exactly the same as the Bible told the Israelites. It is the Bible told the white man. We want to be everything but our Black selves. We want to be everything but Africa. If you send us over here to give a Black man one karate class, he gonna come out slacking his eyes and talking Chinese and acting like he's a Chinaman because he hates his Black self. We want to say we are indigenous. We're not even from Africa, that we are indigenous, so we want to walk around with feathers in our head like we're Indian because we hate being African. Everything you heard up here is anti-African, anti-Black, an attack on Africa. But the bottom line to it is, if you can't go to Africa, where the hell you gonna go? You can't go to Israel. I have been to Africa. You have not been to Africa. And you cannot get into Israel.
Israel is not a home to you, and you will not be allowed into Israel, and you'll never get into Israel unless you join the all-African struggle against Zionist Israel. You haven't been to Israel. You ain't been to Palestine. You haven't been to Africa. Now, let's go down on my opponent. First of all, that was so weak. He spent 10 minutes on one thing that the Israelite did. They have done one thing in 100 years. And that 100 years, they fed some of our, let's give them a hand, man. They finally did something. Other than running off at the mouth, attacking our people on the corners and dogging them out, they finally did something good for the people that they hate. Black power? Now let's compare what they did and what they say versus the people that support my position. Kwame Nkrumah. Kwame Nkrumah, one of the greatest black men of all time. And he talked about and preached and organized for a United States of Africa. A what? Israelite don't want to say that. Let me hear it. A United States of Africa. He preached the unity of all African people. He pointed out the fact that everything that my opponent has said, every negative act he said that an African did to a black man in America, he pointed out that it's due to the white man's colonialism. It's due to the white man enslaving us. It's due to the Bible-toting white man's teaching that teaches black to hate black. It's due to the white man's teaching that teaches us that black people are the cursed seed of Ham. That's the same Israelite teaching. They teach that the African is a savage, that the black man is bad, and that somehow or another the Israelite or the Jew is morally superior. It's the same teaching as the white man. Ladies and gentlemen who are watching on this broadcast, are you going to trust the Honorable Osajifo Kwame Nkrumah, or are you going to trust my opponents? My opponent said they fed one people, one time. This man here has inspired Africans to organize all over the planet by himself. Kwame Nkrumah alone has outdone the entire Israelite nation. Marcus Mosiah Garvey supports my position. Whoever opposes my position opposes the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Whoever opposes the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey is a fool. The Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey is one of the greatest black men of all time. Marcus Garvey teaches us Africa for the Africans at home and abroad. You ain't got a leader that can stand toe-to-toe with Marcus Garvey nowhere on the planet Earth. Marcus Garvey teaches us one God, one aim, one destiny. Marcus Garvey teaches us to love Africa. Marcus Garvey would denounce his teaching. Are you going to go with the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, or are you going to go with the Hebrew Israelite from the ISUPK? It ain't even a question. Case closed. Here's another one. Where's the Hebrew Israelite freedom fighter from the 1960s? Where's the Hebrew Israelite fighting for freedom and justice in the 50s? Where are they in the 60s? Where are they in the 70s? Where are they in the 80s? Where are they in the 90s? Where's counterintelligence program attacking them? Where's the U.S. government attacking them? None of that exists. None of that exists. It's Africa that the white man is against being used. It's Africa and the unity of Africa that is all in the records. Let's go to this man right here. He's all in the counterintelligence program documents. He's all in the U.S. government document. The white man wants to stop him, respectfully, not you. He's most dangerous. He's the founder of the All African People's Revolutionary Party. He teaches us that the unity of all Africans is much more important than any religion. I'm talking about Kwame Ture. Ladies and gentlemen who are watching, I don't know about this church over here. Are you going to trust Kwame Ture or Stokely Carmichael? Or are you going to trust the ISUPK? Anybody who trusts the ISUPK over Kwame Ture, over Stokely Carmichael, over one of the greatest freedom fighters of all time, I say you out of your goddamn mind. Patrice Lumumba from the Congo. Patrice, Africa is our home. Africa is our saying, not some damn patch in the desert. Africa is our home. And wherever Africa has gone wrong, wherever Africa, hold tight. I know somebody got to step up in the temple here and straighten this out. Where is the Hebrew Israelite Patrice Lumumba, who fought for the freedom of Africans all over the planet? Where is one Israelite that could compare to Patrice Lumumba? It ain't one. Case closed. Malcolm X loved Africa. Malcolm X went to all parts of Africa, and he formed the Organization of All African Unity. The organization of what? Oh, he preached the unity and the liberation of Africa. He fought for our people, and to this very day, he's loved. Where's the Hebrew Israelite Malcolm X? Where's the Hebrew Israelite that fought for our people in the 60s? Where's your history of fighting for your people? You ain't been fighting. You gave out some bread and that's it. You ain't looting. You ain't looting, scared more people than all y'all ever will. Don't try to give me one thing you did. You ain't got a leader that can compare to Huey Newton. I'm gonna tear it up. They better get me off this mic. I got 5 minutes. You ain't got a leader. They ain't got a leader that has armed black people, fought for black people, organized and stood up for black people. And that's the history of the Black Panther Party. They ain't got nobody to compare to this. And damn it, I'm here to tell you, I don't care what religion you are. If you trust somebody that lived in the Bible, lived somewhere else 5,000, 6,000 years ago, that didn't even see you, didn't even know your nappy-headed behind, and you loved them more than topic that was revealed to you right here in Sawyer behind on 42nd Street, on Broadway, up here in Harlem, if you value them more than you value Malcolm X, you're nothing but the white man's nigga. Are you going to trust Malcolm X, or are you going to trust the Israelites? My position is the position of Malcolm X. If you say Malcolm is right over the Israelite, raise your hand up in here, man. Anybody that go against Malcolm is anti-black, and we can't waste time with it. Hold this, please, brother. I gotta move fast. I may got 1 minute. We'll get back to it. Dr. Ben agrees with me. Dr. Ben has educated thousands and thousands. Are we going to agree with Dr. Ben? Or are we going to agree with the Church of Israel? The choice is easy. This ain't even a choice. Dr. John Henry Clark is a legend. Are we going to agree with Dr. John Henry Clark? Or are we going to agree with the ISUPK? It ain't even a question. Case closed. Runoko Rashid teaches us the black man, the original peoples all over the face of the planet Earth. He's educated thousands. He's opened the minds and the eyes of thousands. Are we going to trust the words of Runoko Rashid, or are we going to trust the anti-African, anti-black ISUPK? The white man is not after the ISUP, is not after them in his counterintelligence program. The U.S. government has not tried to stop them the way he's tried to stop African unity. Everything he pointed out was a result of the white man splitting and dividing up Africa. Even as the so-called slavery was based on the lies, tricks, and deceit of the goddamn white man. Africa is our side. Africa is our homeland. Africa for the Africans at home and abroad, no matter what they have done, good or bad, that's all that loves us, and then there's our folks. You ain't going to Israel. You ain't going to Japan. You ain't going nowhere else but Africa, so you better wake up. And the white man of America, he don't love you either. Black power. That's it? That's it? That's 15? Minute and a half left. Minute and a half left. There's not much left to rebut from what he said. He didn't say much. He said a few Africans didn't support us. So what? It's Israelites that don't support Israelites. Africans said when the stay there, get that quick. When the missionaries came to Africa, they had the Bible and we had the land. They said, let us pray. When we closed our eyes and opened them, we had the Bible and they had the land. The Bible is the truth. The Bible has been used by the white man, and we can't trust where it comes from. Over here, this Bible told and Bible told. Well, this is the same teaching that Pope Nicholas V teaches. Pope Nicholas V authorized the Portuguese king based on Bible teachings to capture and vanquish all enemies of Christ. All enemies of Christ teaches the white popes must be vanquished. That's the same teaching as the Israelite teaching. He says this was the first of their orders. The popes have used the Bible to oppress us. That's why I say we can't trust it above Africa. The colonialists, the Belgian, the English, the French, all of the enemies of black people have used the Bible to oppress and suppress our people and to tell them that they are the cursed seed of Ham. Africa for the Africans at home and abroad. One God, one aim, one destiny. My teaching is for unity, not for division. Black power. Stick a fork in Captain. He's done. Let's hear it from Malik Zulu survive. Come on. Give me the black hand, ladies and gentlemen. All the way from Washington, D.C., the attorney, the lawyer, what is it? Malik Zulu survive. Now coming on, let me bring him on. I'll bring on the captain. I got it. Now coming up, the man from ISUPK. Come on. You gonna bring him home or you gonna fall under pressure? Because coming after this attorney here, you gotta win the case, brother. You got a closing argument. Come on, Captain, give them this work. Go ahead. Hey, I saw Malcolm X in one line, and these niggas killed me. As great as he was. You Chef Trez? Call me Chef Trez. You gotta hook up the laptop. Hold on, hook up the laptop. That's just one. I gotta give 3 to beat Chef Trez, right? That's just one. I'm saying. You gotta disconnect. You gotta connect. Yeah. Y'all still got his on. Yeah, I think. Yeah. Make sure my power. Make sure my power. Make sure it's lined up right. Turn it. You look inside. Yeah, you got it. You get it right. I know y'all want to sabotage me. The fix is in. Yeah. Okay, you can do that right here. That's what I said. Like the one thing with Malcolm, you can start the time now, but they killed Malcolm. Who's that? Africans don't like Malcolm. They denied Malcolm. I just wrote the article. That's New York Times. Just look it up. So he talking about Malcolm. Don't tell me to love Malcolm. Tell the Africans to love Malcolm. Right. Tell the Africans to love. The Black Panther. You know why they got a new Black Panther party? Because the other one died. I should be case still standing. Commander Jenny Hunter right there. You want to talk about brotherhood and his excellent son to his father. He denies everything Khalid taught. We just played. Khalid said from Genesis to Revelations, the Bible is the roadmap to our salvation. He said, don't trust it. He's a terrible son. Commander Jenny Hunter taught by the 7 heads has never betrayed them. And kept everything that they gave him and gave it to us. And that's why we're here. So no brainer.
So real quick, he keeps talking about King James, right? There's nobody that said King James was gay while he was alive. Not one. Not his enemies or his friends. Nobody said it. It was only said like 40 to 50 years afterwards. So when we read his own words, his own writings, this is James 1, the Silicon Doron. This is what it says, Basil 46, the political works of King James. It says, but especially eschew to be effeminate in your clothes, in perfuming, preening, or such like. And fail never in times of war to be a galliard and bravest both in clothes and countenance. He never said to be no homosexual. He told his son not to be a homosexual. What are we talking about? Now, if King James is gay, skip 2 slides. I want to get the black power. Skip, yeah. If King James is gay, then Malcolm X was gay. Come on. They never said Malcolm X was gay either while he was alive. Never. But 40 years or so after he died, a writer wrote a book that said Malcolm X was gay. Now, those of us that know Malcolm, I'm not saying me because I didn't, but those of you that know Malcolm, that know he wasn't gay. But when you want to villain somebody, you put a spin on him. So Malcolm X is, if King James is gay, Malcolm X is gay. They share the same story. They were not called gay at all while they were alive. You got the next slide? Let's talk about it. Oh, he brought up Marcus Garvey. Now, they call him Marcus Garvey. Did they call him Marcus Mosiah Garvey? Why didn't they call him Marcus Akungu Garvey? Why didn't they call him that? Or Marcus Otongo? I don't know how to say the African name. They call him Marcus Mosiah Garvey in reference to Moses. It was about the Bible. They trusted the Bible enough. He wanted to trust him enough. You can't be a real one if you copy it. I have to see if it was a new name of Moses. He should be quiet when I'm talking. That's the second time he's done it. So now, Marcus Garvey, that red, black, and green they love. This is on a UNIAACL.com site. Anybody can go to that site. Y'all think that red, black, and green is about the earth, the blood, and the land. But originally, look at the other line. That it says, alternatively, it has been explained by journalist Charles Mowbray that Garvey proposed the colors for the following reason, because Garvey was influenced by the Irish. He saw the Irish in their plight, and he was influenced by that. So the original red, black, and green, reds for the red man, which was the Native Indians, and green for the sympathy of the Irish. That's what your red, black, and green for. Put that white shit up if you want to. I'm not putting that up. I'll never put up nothing white, nothing African, nothing Arab. I won't do none of that. It's right on their website. So I can give me the next slide. Black power. Y'all love saying black power, right? Black power. That's powerful to y'all. Say it for me one time. Can I say it one more time? No, you didn't say it. Y'all can say it. No, you can say it one time for me. Black power. One time. They spirit won't say black power. Now, this is a book written in 1969 by James Cone. It's called Black Theology and Black Power. Now, we know Black Power says the term Black Power, this is all in this book here, written in 1969, right? It says the term Black Power was first used in the civil rights movement in the spring of 1906 by Stokely Carmichael, which I believe he said, which all y'all get it from. It says, it designate only the appropriate response to white racism. Since that time, many critics have observed that there's no common agreement regarding its definition. In one sense, the fact is not surprising since every phenomenon passes through stages of development. It said the same is true with the words Black Power. To what object does it point? What does it mean when used by advocates? What it means is complete emancipation of Black people from white oppression. That's what it means. That's what it says it means. By whatever means Black people deem necessary. The methods may include selective buying, boycotting, marching, or even rebellion. Black power means Black freedom, Black self-determination, wherein the Black people no longer view themselves as without human dignity, but as men, human beings with the ability to carve out their own destiny. Y'all agree with that, right? That sounds strong. On the American scene today as yesterday, one problem stands out: the enslavement of Black Americans. But as we examine what contemporary theologians are saying, we find that they are silent about the enslaved condition of Black people. To this day, it's the same exact way you can't talk about slavery. Evidently, they see no relationship between Black slavery and the Christian gospel. Consequently, there's been no sharp confrontation of the gospel with white racism. There is then a desperate need for a Black theology, a theology whose sole purpose is to apply freeing power of the gospel of Black people under white oppression, which is what they say Black power is about, to free you from white oppression. Unfortunately, Christianity came to the Black man through white oppressors, like his leader said. His leader said the exact same thing, that the white man gave us this book, but it is the book to our salvation if read properly, right? It says, who demanded that they reject his concern for this world as well as his Blackness and affirm the next world in whiteness. The Black intellectual community, however, with emphasis on Black identity, became increasingly suspicious of Christianity because the oppressor had used it as a means of sifting us out. So naturally, as slave questions his existence as a slave, he also questions the religion of his ancestor. How many familiar with the slave Bible? You go to the next slide, Kyle. How many familiar with the slave Bible? You know, the slave Bible is the Bible that they gave us. They never actually gave us the Bible. And what they would do with the slave Bible is extract certain passages that might make us rebel. If we actually read that if you steal a man, you get killed. That's what his leader read, Exodus 21, right? So now, page 38. Therefore, it is appropriate to ask, is it possible for men to be really Black and still feel an identity with the biblical tradition? As he just said, well, he felt Marcus Mosiah, Garvey, was the real Moses, but that inspiration came from the Old Testament. It didn't come from Kemet or any other spiritual system. It came from the Bible. If you think about it, 95% of the revolutions in America are inspired by people that believe in the Bible. And the failure of it has nothing to do with the Bible. It's betrayal amongst their own. Even Farrakhan and Cowley couldn't get along. My man up there's like, well, I ain't gonna say it like that, General. Commander General does not care who gets glory in here. Does not. He sent us out to go and conquer. Right. So if I was Khalid and I delivered that King's speech, him playing the role of Farrakhan would never say, hey, sit down. And I would never have to go and start the Black Panther Party. He would have said, that's an excellent speech. The way you taught the so-called Jewish people up, that's an excellent speech. Don't do more. Don't go to Kingstown. Go to Syracuse. Go to Georgetown. Go to North Carolina and tell them all. That's what Commander Jimmy Hunter would say. But when you hate your brother, he'll be like, no, we can't have him around. He's too popular. He's going to take my position. The truth is not about you. It's about God. It's about Christ. That's our king. That's what it's about. So now, and again, all that's inspired from the Bible. I don't know Commander Jimmy Hunter without the Bible. I know nothing of him without the Bible. So now, it says, finally, is Black power, I'm sorry, the real message came from will become a live option for radical advocates of Black consciousness. Is there any relationship at all between the work of God and the activity of the ghetto? Must Black people be forced to deny their identity or to embrace the Christian faith? Finally, is Black power as described in chapter 1 compatible with Christian faith? Or are we dealing with two utterly different perspectives? This is Luke 4:18. It says, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he hath anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. We are the poorest people in this condition. And that's why everybody goes to that Bible, because that Bible is about liberating the poor from their oppressor, not joining them. Wait, give me the next slide, so I'm going to jump the gun. Next page. If the gospel of Christ frees a man for those who labor are heavily laden, the humiliated, abused, and it was seen that for 20th century America, the message of Black power is Christ himself. That's in this book, right here, Black theology and Black power. So when y'all saying Black power, you talking about Christ. Right. Because what was Christ about? Christ was about freeing his people. Christ ain't never said he came for all people. That's a lie that the white man told you. He said, I am not sent but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. There ain't nobody more lost than us. That's why I couldn't feed that little African boy. He got a mom and dad. They can feed him. My brothers don't have mom and dads. They can't get fed. So now, I'm going to keep reading. It says, if the gospel is the gospel of liberation for the oppressed, then Jesus is where the oppressed are, and continues his work of liberation there. Jesus is not safely confined in the first century. He is our contemporary. His father said the kingdom of heaven is in you. Who do you get that from? Christ. So if you want the kingdom of heaven, I know they like to joke because we say the sky gonna crack when Christ returns, and that's true. But he also said, occupy till I come. How do you occupy? You take your city back. How can we think we can go to Africa and be in a position of power? We ain't even in charge of Harlem. You ever been outside of Harlem now? It used to be black. It used to be great. Now it's Staples and PC Richards and all that stuff out there. We got a bend on the side. And I hope y'all paid went to all these vendors and bought something from all these vendors. Otherwise, you represent the problem. So now, it says, if he is not in the ghetto, if he is not where men are living, at the brink of existence, but is rather in the easy life of the suburbs, then the gospel is a lie. Because Christ never went to the rich. So when the Christian church tells you money is the solution and stuff, that's a lie. Christ only dealt with the poor. It says the opposite, however, is the case. Christ, the Bible is not alien to black power. It is black power. So when you say black power, that's exactly what you're saying. Next slide. How much time I got, Black Bob?
3:23.
Woo, I'm killing the game. I told Cuz I made fun of me because I had like 80,000 slides in PowerPoint. I said we're gonna get through. So now, elements of culture, Bible versus Africa. So now, people feel responsible for their family if we're under one body. If you go Pan-Africanist route, how can you be responsible for your family if one is Egyptian, one is Nigerian, one is Ethiopian, one is the Cushite, whatever they call? You can't be about your family because you're going to care about your culture. Next thing, the concept of face as a strong public image. You should care how you're represented. If you let someone else attack somebody else because they're not your people, then you don't care about the face of your people. When you see the Israelites on them corners, we're defending the face of black people.
Right.
How are we doing that? We're talking about the crimes that have been committed against us and asking for justice for those that don't call themselves Israelites. Right. The black people we're trying to reach, they don't call themselves Israelites, but if they come and they learn, then they do. But that's who we risk our lives for. Africans don't risk their life for you. You risk your life for them. That's right. That's all we do. So now, it says, if a member's face is threatened, the whole group's honor is in danger because we are a true monolith. And Pan-African, everybody that's responsible for themselves. Next slide, Captain. This is called elements of culture. In elements of culture, you need I might not be able to finish this one. You need social organization, custom and traditions, language, arts, religion, government structure, and economics. That's what you need. Those are 7 elements that you need. Keep going. So in the elements of culture, customs and traditions. So you have to have something that, the problem with black people is not our money. It's not. Because we have money. If you go back to Black Wall Street, it took a year for $1 to come out of that community. Today, maybe 5 seconds, something like that. Because our moral compass is off. How do you deal with people when it comes to money? How do you deal with their spirituality? How do you deal with them with brotherhood? It's what controls you. So elements of culture, we have to deal with idolatry. Exodus 21:21 said you can't serve other gods. Only one God. Even that's confusion. All different gods or that he mentioned are all worshipped differently. How can you come together? You got different feast days and celebrations, and you come together in conflicts, especially if you're God. And then here's the bigger part. The Egyptians and Nubians didn't get along like that at all. They went to war. They will wear the sandals, draw the names of the people they done killed. They do that to this day. They're at civil war. So you're going to bring us to another war? Give me the next slide. Elements of culture is also important. Why do I have these images up here? Up here is in a book called The Russian Icons. And as you can see, they're taking the black images and they're painting them white. Why is that important? If I told all of y'all to close your eyes and picture the black Jesus that he said was black, I played the video. He said Christ was black. I guarantee you see the white boy. Because the image embeds in your brain. So it took me like 2 years to get the white boy out of my brain, but even when I'm in the truth and I know Christ is black, that's what's up.
No, it wasn't over, just 2 rounds. It was just question and answer. Well, we switching it up. I mean, what you want a question from them? Oh, I think it was either you and I asked each other questions. We did 2, it was supposed to be 2 rounds. We did it.
Okay.
Take two. Okay, so what's next? We're supposed to either ask each other questions or take questions.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, you can ask me a question.
Well, you just spoke, so you asked me.
You want me to ask you?
I'm hearing your doctrine, so ask me a question based on your doctrine. I'm asking you a question based on mine.
Okay, is there a time limit on this? Or did we, I think it was 3 questions each, right? 3 questions each. Right, didn't take from the audience.
All right.
No, we nixed that. Yeah, we nixed that. So it's 3 questions between us and then from the audience. Okay.
So my first question, I guess, is, ladies and gentlemen, this is what's gonna happen now. Cesaro is gonna question, Attorney Monique Shabazz 3 questions and then vice versa. And then after that, the audience gets to ask them questions, all right?
That'd be better.
All right, okay, as long as y'all agree.
So I guess my first question, Malik, you being a Muslim, how does trust in Africa fit in that when Muslims spread Islam through Africa with the sword as well? Are you giving up Islam? That's my question.
All right, that's a good question, because I want to clear that up. It has been alleged that I'm here representing the Nation of Islam, and that the Nation of Islam had murdered Malcolm X. Okay, which is not true, but I'm not representing the Nation of Islam, and I don't represent the Black Muslims. In fact, to the contrary, I represent a man that was in the Nation of Islam, as he pointed out. A man that stood up and told the truths before the world, and he was actually persecuted by the Nation of Islam. I don't represent Arab Muslims. Matter of fact, I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna shock you right now. The Honorable Khalid Muhammad, who I have his book, the Book of Khalid, and I didn't even put this in this edition, but it'll be in the next one. At the end of his life, he told me, brother, I don't even want you to call me a Muslim. That's right. He said, I've evolved. He said, like I am today, we believe in God and we believe in the unity of all of our people. That's what he told me. So I don't represent Islam. I condemn the European slave trade, the European Bible-toting anti-Black slave trade, and I condemn that Arab anti-Black slave trade. I condemn them all. Now, he's consistently, I gotta rebut this, you gotta keep score. He has consistently said that I betrayed Khalid Muhammad, and I only dealt with and he only dealt with the Bible. Just quickly, I sit down. I just gotta say this too, real quick.
Question, not rebuttal.
Okay, fine, I answered your question. Okay, so let me ask you this. Okay, fine, that's fine.
That's the rule.
Okay, no problem. Do you have any proof that the Exodus story written in the Bible exists at all?
My PowerPoint set up. My PowerPoint pull up.
There's a time limit on the answer. This can't be no 50-minute answer. You gotta come right quick to it.
So this is anybody can go onto the website. I think it's like the Bible CE or whatever. It says Moses and the Exodus inscription. There's a book called Sinai Photograph. It costs about $600 to buy, which I have. There's also another book called Hebrew, the Oldest Alphabet, written by what's the guy's name? Petrovich. I appreciate that, doctor. So now, starting in 1906, 16 ancient Hebrew inscriptions for Egypt were discovered by Hilda and William Matthews Flinders Petrie at 4 sites. It says the Petries knew it was a script, but were unable to decode it. So they lay collecting dust for 100 years until they were translated for the first time in 2015 by Doug Petrovich. Predictability is what all you blackity blacks are. So now, one, it says Dr. Doug Petrovich documented in his recent book, Hebrew, the world's oldest alphabet in 2015, that all modern alphabets are derived from the Hebrew alphabet, including English. Petrovich was able to translate for the first time 16 ancient inscriptions that sat collecting dust in museums storehouses for over 100 years. Sinai 361 is one example of the oldest Hebrew inscriptions ever discovered, dated to 1446 BC, according to their timeline. Translation Sinai 361, our bound servitude had lingered
Moses then provoked astonishment. So when you ask if Moses exists, you can go to Sinai 361. You also have Sinai 3, I don't think I have it on here. So you got Sinai 361, which clearly mentions Moses. It goes on further, says this describes the oppression of Israel under the 18th dynasty pharaohs, and then the plagues of Egypt, which caused the astonishment of 1446 BC. I think I answered your question. So,
Stay with me, stay with me. Stay with me.
you don't get the
Thank you.
you said back and forth. I know it's confusing.
Yeah, it's confusing. Take a look at it. Look at it. Because this ain't nothing to me. This ain't nothing. But let me ask you this from your Bible first. And I'm going to ask you to stick with it. It's my turn. Okay, so back and forth. No follow. Okay, fine. No follow. You know, all the time to stick to the rule. Listen, you come to the UPK, we teach you how to follow all the rules. I ask you a question. Okay, so let me ask you a question. It's my turn to ask this. I'll say that. I gotta save all the stuff. The three items that I brought out about Malcolm being denied by Africa, Haitians being denied 4 things. Haitians being denied by Africa, the Ethiopians saying what they say about Africa. With Africa denying us, how can you justify us trusting them when we keep trying to trust them and they fail us at every time? My brother, you act like you forgot that the white man has robbed us as well as Africa also. How can you forget this? How can you forget that your brothers who you are dogging out here, your black brothers all over the planet, the only ones you got who you are intent on attacking, they have been robbed by the white man just like you. That's the answer. Everything that you said that an African did wrong to another African, it comes from the goddamn white man.
Okay, so it's your turn to ask me a question.
Now, I'm going to read you a passage from my book on Khalid Muhammad, and I want to ask you, do you stand by your statement that Khalid Muhammad is a Bible-only man? Okay, so let me read this to you. Come on. Let me read this to you. Because he's done this 4 times. I'm keeping track of the points. All right. 1 second.
I hope one comes finally.
Finally. I ain't heard no rebuttal to all the points I raised. Okay, all right. Well, I'm going to remind you how many times you've been hitting this fight. You just got being cheered by your crowd here. You've been hit 50, 60. Ain't no answers to nothing I've gotten up here. I haven't gotten any answers. Only thing I've gotten up here is that an African opposed to African. And it's Israelites opposing Israelites all over America. Everywhere. They fighting like cats and dogs, just like Muslims and the rest of black people, just like tonight. I'm here to, okay, I'm gonna answer. You get right to it. Listen, and y'all know me, I can talk. I can talk. I also know how to follow rules. I can add lyrics like that. Get it together. All that talking, he should have been spending more time getting the extra. Oh, now he needs time to get the extra. Yes, I'm trying to help him out. So I get the Jeopardy music or something, man. Get this brother together. You can't let me move up on you like this, man. Come on, brother. That's not a good look for you. No, you heard to say my lead, right? Yeah, that's what he wrote it. That's the whole thing he wrote. It's okay. Just bear with me for a minute. All right. Now he said, listen up. Now I want you to understand, if you can't trust him on one point, on Khalid Muhammad, you can't trust him on the rest. Okay, anybody who knows Khalid Abdul Muhammad knows he was not a Bible-only man. Here in page 53 in the book of Khalid, right here, it says, it was the African-centered minister Khalid. Excuse me. Like pause here, hey, if y'all could, hey, to the brothers right there, I need y'all to keep it down. Reggie, come on, y'all. We having a debate up here, man. These are important. Some decorum. I see my soldiers.
Ain't saying nothing.
He's
We're
right
gonna teach
about
all
that.
y'all.
He's right about that brotherhood that we got in Israelite school, you became the commander in Holland. Y'all all need that. You should get ashamed of yourself for talking about this stuff. All right. On Khalid Muhammad, I'm gonna read you this and then I want you to answer. Okay? And in the process of you answering, answer how is your teaching not the most divisive teaching in the Black community? In page 53, it was the African-centered Minister Khalid who would mount the rostrum with African robes and African attire. This was unheard of from the strict suit and bow tie wearing Muslims. From the rostrum, Khalid would illuminate the teachings of Elijah Muhammad and Louis Farrakhan from an African worldview. What kind of worldview? What kind of worldview? I know I'm in the Israelite temple. I'm coming in on them like Yahshua. I'm outnumbered and don't care. It says, I quoted the Bible more than him tonight. I have quoted the Bible more than him tonight. And I'm going to get to the point where the Jews say in the Bible that we have never been in slavery. I'll get back to that. It says it was the African-centered Minister Khalid who would mount the rostrum with African robes and African attire. This was unheard of from the strict suit and bow tie wearing Muslims. From the rostrum, Khalid would illuminate the teachings of Elijah Muhammad and Louis Farrakhan from an African worldview, referencing Kemet and Egypt, and frequently to prove that, quote, the Black man and woman are absolutely the mothers and fathers of civilization, mathematics, engineering, science, law, religion, and spirituality. This is Khalid. Yes, it was stated in the supreme wisdom lessons that the Black man was the father of civilization, but it was Minister Khalid Muhammad who could lay out the academic proof to support the Nation of Islam claims. Not of just Allah, Khalid in the 1980s spoke of the African gods, Babaluwaye, Ile Ba, Oludumare, Obatula, Unkudukulu, Shango, that pulls all of the names of the one God together. Khalid would teach and enlighten his audiences, and they were glued to every word of his brilliant lectures. The Yoruba faith and tradition, the Kemetic sciences, indigenous African spirituality, information from the Zulu to the Dogon were all a part of the knowledge that Khalid was dropping, and would eventually qualify him as a master teacher in the course of his illustrious career. Khalid Muhammad's presentation, I'm asked, Khalid Muhammad's presentation of African culture, language, and spiritual systems made him unlike any other minister ever in the Nation of Islam. Do you now retract your misinformation on Khalid Muhammad?
The first thing I want to say, every time you want to say something of power in the book, you say you're not supposed to trust, you done quoted Joshua like 5 times. So I'm coming at him like Joshua. That's in the Bible, not in nothing that he said. And everything that he just read is what he wrote. Khalid Muhammad didn't say that. Every video we have of Khalid Muhammad that I've seen and I've watched them, he never quoted those guys he's talking about. The only thing I will agree, I don't need you to talk. I'm joking, Godfrey. The only thing I will agree is that Khalid was an African-centered person. You know that because he went over to Uganda to fight with Idi Amin, I think it was, right? He went over there to fight with Idi Amin. Here's the problem. When Khalid came over here, it was Farrakhan calling, why did Idi Amin send them Africans over here to help them over here? We always fight for them. Showing me that we fight for them, showing me that we African-centered, that does not mean anything to me. But what he said, Khalid said, Genesis to Revelations is the roadmap to our liberation. That's what I do know he said. He just didn't have the full truth. When he came to the school and we taught him, that's why he switched it up to say, we are the Hebrew
Israelites. I don't really use that term, but that's the word, the way he uses it. Hebrew is the language we speak. Israelites is what we are. So when you ask that question, those are your words, brother. You would have to show me where Khaled said, a cool. I won't even say the whole thing. The God in me won't let me say it. The God in me won't let me say the whole thing. But that's what you would have to show. So that's my question. I'm gonna answer. Do I have a final question? I don't think I have a final question. I'm ready to take questions from you. I just said that. I'm ready to take questions from the audience. Unless he got another question, I'm good. I don't have another question. I'd rather take questions from the audience unless he has a question for me.
But give it up for both of us for having a good debate. Give it up to Malik.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, if you have a question, just put your hands up. I'll come over to where you are. Any questions? Any questions? All right, here you go. What's your name, brother?
My name's Barry from Philly. I just want to say, regardless of the philosophies and whatnot, I want to take pride in the brothers for keeping brothers off of drugs and cleaning brothers up and making brothers a little bit more better.
Any question?